AltaSea at the Port of Los Angeles is a 35-acre campus dedicated to finding climate solutions through the ocean. From aquaculture to carbon capture to renewable energy, ocean exploration, and workforce training, AltaSea is helping to shape the future of the blue economy. As California looks ahead to its next governor, we believe the ocean must be central to that conversation. And that's why AltaSea is hosting a series of discussions on how each candidate would protect our ocean, grow blue economy jobs, and build a more resilient future for California.
Hello, everyone. I'm Terry Tamminen, the president and CEO of AltaSea here in the Port of Los Angeles, which is one of the world's largest blue economy hubs. We're innovating and developing and expanding the use of climate solutions from the ocean at scale, such as aquaculture, where we can grow things like kelp and other seaweed to make fuel and food and pharmaceuticals and all kinds of important things. Also to harness the energy from the waves and tide into renewable electricity, underwater robotics, decarbonizing our ports. Anything to do with the sustainable blue economy has a home here at AltaSea. And we know that California is an ocean state. The ocean is incredibly important, both as an economic driver and as a natural resource. So we're very excited today to speak with former Controller Yee about these issues. And just by way of introduction, if I may, Betty Yee served 2 terms as California's State Controller from 2015 to 2023, following her service at the California Board of Equalization and her earlier work as the state's budget director. So that's a very important role and very important background. Across nearly 40 years in public service, she's been known for her expertise in finance, government accountability, and long-range fiscal planning. Controller Yee, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be back here. Yes.
Well, let me ask you about the ocean and why this is important to California. As I mentioned, it's obviously an economic driver. I think most people would think tourism, but it's a great natural resource that we need to protect and not overuse or use in a way that it destroys its future benefits. So tell us, as someone who would be the governor of California, why is the ocean itself important to California's future?
Well, the ocean, I'm a native Californian, so grew up in San Francisco. Personally, it's been very important in my life in terms of recreation and certainly tourism for many who come to California. But I look at the ocean as really globally, including here in California, as this resource that has the potential of being just overtaxed in the years ahead. As we think about new sources of energy, as we think about new sources for food, as we think about just how we are going to grow our economy and how there are lots of thoughts about what the ocean can do in terms of bringing new sectors of the economy into prominence. And we have to be very responsible about how we approach each of those. And as I think about certainly ocean health and the things that we're able to do here in California as having been very good stewards of the ocean, I want that to be protected, but still be able to deliver in terms of an economy that can create new opportunities. And I was here at AltaSea many, many years ago when this was just getting started, and to see that there is just so much work going into how we are going to look at responsibly, relying on our ocean for all those different reasons is really just warms my heart, because we have a lot of talent and knowledge around all these issues, and certainly as a global economy, I think we're going to be sharing a lot of that around the world.
Well, speaking of talent and knowledge, obviously to any governor, the workforce and jobs
Yes.
and job opportunities are very important. Here at AltaSea, we're working with community colleges on certificate programs
Yes.
where students can earn a certificate to get a good job in aquaculture, in hydrogen in the maritime economy, or in underwater robotics. Those are all very different kind of jobs than the ones that we have
Yes.
today. And so how, as governor, might you be able to inspire young people to go into those jobs, support the job training and the other things that are going to be necessary to prepare this kind of a workforce
Right.
for a 21st century blue economy?
Absolutely. So I think as we think about our education system, it really has to be right-sized for the times that we're in. When we and thank you to AltaSea for just opening up this beautiful space to young people and students to come and explore what's possible. But our community colleges are really, I think, still a very undertapped resource, and we need to invest in them. I always think that they're a little bit of an orphan in our educational system. They're kind of higher education, but they're kind of part of K-12 from a funding perspective. But I think community colleges, one of the things that I have seen that has worked throughout the state, and I will support this, and that is how do we look at dual enrollment? So that for young people who are not yet high school graduates, to get them exposed to community college coursework, and with the industries involved, just really helping to map that out in terms of what that academic journey would look like, and just to really keep the interest up among our young people. I mean, I can't imagine that any young person who doesn't step foot here, it doesn't walk away thinking, I could be part of this, right? And so how do we fulfill that in terms of academically, giving them that early exposure? So dual enrollment, one. And then secondly, looking at our community colleges, the flexibility of being able to grant, credentials and certification, I think is really important. We're in an era now where our economy is changing so quickly that we have to be much more innovative about how we look at centering our learners who are going to be the talent of the future and being sure that we're not the impediment to connecting those two things together.
That's great to know. And, we're living in a time when, unfortunately, some of the political establishment, especially in Washington, doesn't believe in diversity or equity or inclusion, doesn't think that it's important to bring along the communities that have often been left behind or underserved.
Yeah.
So as governor, I'm wondering how you would make sure that these new opportunities, especially in the blue economy,
Yeah.
Are open to everyone. And maybe you'll even share that story you shared with me about as a young person watching sea hunt,
Yes.
wondering if that was something you could do.
Right, absolutely. Well, in terms of what the federal government has in store for California, look, unfortunately, we're a target of this current administration. But my feeling is we continue to lead. We continue to just open doors and make sure that particularly our young people are exposed to all these opportunities and really meeting them where they are. I like the fact that you're situated here in San Pedro, where you have surrounding communities where I would imagine there are young people who've never even thought about going into a career in a maritime-related career. So I would look at continuing to do that work. We would look at how we build these strategic partnerships with our schools, with the business community, with certainly AltaSea here, and just bring all of our partners together. Because my view about just California is that we're a global economy. And part of why I think we can continue to grow that is because we have to be sure that who we are preparing to be the leaders of the economy going forward have to be people who are going to be able to just achieve economic health on their own. And so these are the opportunities that are going to create that.
And opportunities for women. I should point out
Oh,
that
and
our
that's, yeah,
founder,
August.
our founder is a woman, Jenny
That's right.
Crusoe,
That's
and Geraldine Natz was the head of the
That's
port
right.
here in Los Angeles,
That's
running the largest port in North America when we were founded a dozen years or so ago. But you mentioned
Yes, no, and as a young person, the story I watched Sea Hunt with Lloyd Bridges, and I remember asking my dad, I was just so fascinated by it, and I asked my dad, "Can a girl do that?" And back then, it really, I mean, shoot, I think every young girl at my age and my generation, fourth grade science, we all thought we could be astronauts. But to just see this break open, but I think the key thing is just really meeting the learners where they are, to understand that they have passions for all that's going on around them. I love that the schools are really engaged in this, and we have to just do everything to support those partnerships.
Speaking of that, we were talking earlier about ports and things like automation and
Yes.
making sure that the workforce, speaking again of the workforce, is protected and upskilled and so
Yes.
forth. But we are sitting in the largest port in North America in terms of trade. I think almost half of the trade that comes by ocean
Yes.
comes through the port of LA and Long Beach combined. And then we have the other ports up and down the coast. Very often it's the port communities that suffer from the traffic, from the air pollution and so on. Well, I think our port here has done a great job of reducing particulate matter 90% in the last 10, 15 years and so forth, in partnership with the state, with
Yes.
regulation. But again, as governor, how would you make sure that these port communities have both opportunity and are not necessarily suffering the burden of the rest of us just importing things from all over the world?
No, exactly, Terry. When I look at these issues, the first place I go is, where are the communities that are actually the most heavily burdened? And where are the opportunities for those communities to actually be part of building their own resilience? And as I think about that, I think about how we are sitting here today probably experiencing some of the most significant rollbacks of this federal administration with respect to our environment. And my response to that is California's not going to stop leading. We're in a hub of innovation right here. There's innovation happening in all parts of the state. And I would say that in places that are under-resourced and probably are not getting the attention from the state, they're compelled to innovate every day. Just to be able to, continue to care for their community. So what I would say is here especially, I mean, I just see this as a prime hub. And this is true in other parts of California where I think economies really need to be diversified. But we're not going to stop being a leader. I want California to be the industrial leader of climate technology, period. And it looks different in different regions of the state, but this means jobs. This means looking at applying that technology to actually deal with some of the ill effects of, certainly, air pollution and the challenges that we have here. But just think about how empowering that is, that, you have communities that actually are going to be able to have some major role in terms of being sure to have a resilient future, both economically and environmentally.
We note that a lot of things that are happening here, obviously we're talking about the ocean today and the blue economy, so maybe somebody listening to this interview in the Central Valley says, well, what does that have to do with me? I'd note that one of the most important products from kelp that we are proposing to farm here can be turned into biostimulants that are actually much healthier for the soil and much more productive than chemical fertilizers. And lots of other connections. I mean, obviously, if we get more clean energy, that's going to benefit the entire state if we harness the waves and that type of thing. Talk to us a little bit about your vision for that kind of transferability, about how do we make sure that whether it's in the ocean economy or other economies that you're seeing, you mentioned the tech economy and so forth, that helps lift up the whole state.
No, and I think one of the things as I've traveled the state extensively, what we don't talk about, just as a matter of policy, is a recognition about the interdependence of each of the regions of the state. I know that particularly for this race, and my colleagues have been visiting rural communities a lot, and I think are getting an understanding that we rely so much on our rural communities, with respect to the watersheds, with respect to just the resources that we depend on. And of course, the rural communities really look to urban areas in terms of just how they can get service delivery and on a whole number of levels. Certainly as governor, what I would be looking to do, and I believe this to my core, Terry, that any challenge that we have here in California can be solved right here in California. We're that good. We really are. And so it really is the job of the next governor, of any public officials, to look at how do we just really connect up the resources with the need. And those resources are going to continue to be developed. And as we develop them, to be sure that they're going to be deployed anywhere that can benefit from them.
On that note, and going back to this topic, that unfortunately, when whoever is the next governor takes over, he or she will be facing a federal government that's openly hostile to the state. And that includes with important funding. And I know that when I was serving in the Schwarzenegger administration, even though Schwarzenegger was a Republican and Bush was in office at the time, that we still had to fight for federal funding to repair our levees. And obviously with climate change, more intense storms, the levees were much more fragile. Now we're seeing that with sea level rise and more intense storms, our ports, which again are important to inland communities because we export a lot of agricultural products, for example, and a lot of jobs, trucking and other things. So it really is, the blue economy is important to everyone. But climate change is really going to require the state and the federal government to step up and spend a lot of money on improving our infrastructure and protecting us from this future that unfortunately we've created. How would you as governor go about accelerating some of those ideas and finding the resources? And as somebody who was on the Board of Equalization and was controller, you know where the money is. How do we find the money that we're going to need to prepare for a climate future?
Well, I think a few ways, Terry. One is, we look at not just the natural, cycles of budget shortfalls and deficits, but also with the changing economy and our increasing challenges. A couple things. One, just looking at how we are going to look at delivering more efficiently. Service delivery is really going to be key in terms of how we are going to continue to deliver services with the new tools that we have as a government. So I would look at efficiencies there to free up dollars. I also would look at how we as a state can partner with other states in terms of just really having a a single voice with respect to the role of the federal government in helping our challenges. I'll give you one example. For example, insurance. We've just had devastating wildfires, here, and there's so many other just kind of climate-related disasters that I think are going to be more commonplace. Other states are experiencing that. I would like to be in partnership with those other states to have the federal government actually stand up in the short term a national reinsurance program so that our FAIR plans aren't going to become insolvent and then people don't have an option. And because insurance is regulated state by state, I think that's a role the federal government can play. And then also looking at how they can actually help with setting up revolving loan mechanisms where we can deal with issues of sea level rise, where local jurisdictions have the ability to have funding and do the work that they need to do, but it's a revolving loan fund so that it gets, recycles over and over again so that we continue to have the funds for communities in need. But also say that it's all about partnerships. Where it's partners with other states. It's about looking at communities where they're setting up their own partnerships about, just how to do this work together. And then the other thing that I would say is we're going to grow this economy. We're going to grow this economy and generate more revenue and build that resilience, if you will, for any unforeseen or even maybe planned, federal funding cuts. So we're generating new revenue and looking at how we do that in the areas that are really in need of economic opportunity now. So it's building that. I always call it's this economic resilience that I think just makes us not sustaining our commitment to that is making us more vulnerable. And so if we can continue to build that, generate more revenue, looking at how we use financing mechanisms that are going to be regenerative in and of themselves, I think we can get there.
Fantastic. Well, Controller Betty Yee, I want to thank you for joining us today, and I want to give you the final word. Here at AltaSea, we like to say our future is blue.
Yes.
Of course, as governor, you have to think green and all kinds of other industries, but just give us a final word on what the ocean and the blue economy means to you.
California is so fortunate because we're known still worldwide as being on the cutting edge of so much innovation, and the blue economy is no exception to that. But what it says to me also is that why we're a leader is because we understand all of the needs that it fulfills. And for us here in California, being a large global economy, we're going to continue to look at how we can have impact around the world, but also locally, how we have impact in terms of building that economic resilience in all of our communities. So just very grateful for the work that AltaSea is doing to help just propel that, and really look forward to seeing that happen statewide.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Terry.